All right. Welcome to the Joy Experience, sponsored by Svensson Hypnosis, SvenssonHypnosis.com, helping clients tap into the power within to improve their health, reclaim their natural joy, achieve their goals and dreams, and live a more engaging, balanced, prosperous life. I'm your host, Sharon Svensson, founder of Svensson Hypnosis. In each episode of the Joy Experience, you'll experience an empowering tool to support you in creating the life you want to live. Healthy, joyful, balanced, purposeful, and prosperous. Our focus in the Joy Experience will be on what I believe are the most powerful tools available to humanity, which is hypnosis, no surprise there, meditation, neurolinguistic programming, breath work, and other methods that really can fast forward that transformation. So help you to let go more quickly those limiting ideas and beliefs that we have, and connect with that wisdom that I believe everybody has within, so that you can move forward from that place of knowing. My guest expert today is Dr. Clarissa Kristjansson, the mindful menopause coach, host of the podcast, A Little Breathing Space, which, by the way, definitely check it out. Subscribe to it because you won't want to miss an episode. Really fascinating. And she's also a neuroscientist. Dr. Clarissa, is that okay to call you Dr. Clarissa, or do you like to have kind of how do you like to be addressed?
Just Clarissa's fine.
Okay. You're such a joyful, so I kind of figured you're probably more informal.
Yeah.
Clarissa supports midlife women transition through menopause holistically and flourish in their lives by helping them let go of self-limiting habits and beliefs, move forward with confidence, take bold actions, and live the zestful life. I love that. Welcome, Clarissa. I'm so delighted to have you join us today. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule and sharing your knowledge, skills, and talents. Because this is an issue that affects a lot of women. So I'm real interested in what led you to that. What's your story in creating your business?
Well, firstly, Sharon, let me say thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. I'm delighted to be here. Yeah, for me, it was a long journey to where I am. I'm about to turn 60 this year. And what really for me was, after 28 years in a corporate situation, I burnt out. And I think what had happened was I'd been very interested in meditation and yoga prior to having a family. And, family comes along, life gets very busy. And like a lot of my clients, they got caught in what I call the sandwich generation. And there I was juggling elderly, a parent. My mother was very poorly.
Oh,
So there I was, the meat in the sandwich, the poor little thing stuck in the sandwich. And I had, a very elderly, poorly mother.
Oh, okay.
And had, my husband, my other husband, not the one I have now,
Yeah.
but, and he had a business and it wasn't going very well. And then I had children and stepchildren and a very busy, pressurized career. And it just sort of squeezed me tighter and tighter. Obviously, then my mother passed away and my marriage ended, but there I was working 40, 50 hours, maybe more actually, a week, traveling, a lot of financial responsibility. And I didn't realize I was perimenopausal. I didn't know what perimenopause was, the start of menopause. I had no idea. And, that and stress together are not that great friends. And eventually I just literally burnt out. I'd had lots of warning signals and I hadn't, paid a lot of attention to them.
So, what did that lead you to then?
Well, it led me to, first and foremost, to really, it was I had to stop, and I began to piece bits of my life together. Quite frankly, I had to take care of my health. My blood pressure was sky high.
Oh,
So,
okay.
it was bad, walking up the hill to my house then in Sydney and Bondi, I just was unable to breathe practically. And I didn't, when I went to the doctor, he said, your blood pressure's, through the roof. So that meant exercising, changing my diet, and quietening my mind. And that's when I picked up my meditation again, but was introduced to mindfulness, which is a little bit different from the kind of Zen type meditation that I'd practiced in earlier years. And I became more and more involved in mindfulness meditation and went on to train to be a teacher.
Oh, okay. Maybe we could stop for a moment.
Yeah.
How is that different from the meditation? Explain maybe the mindfulness meditation
I
to
think
myself.
mindfulness is a very deliberate type of meditation. It is very much about focusing in the present moment, about anchoring yourself in that. It obviously is quite secular compared to a Zen or a Buddhist meditation. It might have its roots, but it's modern and it's secular, and you are maybe working less on some of the deeper insight meditations that come from the Buddhist traditions, where you really sit for long periods.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of insight unfolding at that time, whereas mindfulness meditations tend to be shorter, focusing on just the breath or a body sensation or your feet on the ground, whatever, and they're quite deliberate, short and deliberate. Yeah.
So why did that form of meditation really kind of, I guess, answer your needs? What kind of changes did you see unfold from that?
I think for me, one is that the fact that I can do that anywhere. I don't have to sit on a cushion
Uh-huh.
and, deliberately take a amount of time. I was able to integrate that into my life. I could do that on the bus. I could sit quietly in a chair. I could stop for a couple of minutes in between meetings at work or whatever I was doing, and very quickly do a scanning in, a checking in, how am I feeling? Can I take some deep breaths and center myself and then move on with my day?
Oh, beautiful. So it almost sounds like you were able in so many different ways to kind of bring meditation into the conscious state. Um, and that you
That's
could have your kind of tune-ups whenever you wanted to. I love that. What were the changes that you started to see when I know you did more than just meditation too, that you had other tools that you brought in, like you said, exercise, changing your diet. What did you see for the results?
I think the very first thing that I really noticed was that my insomnia, which had been, quite a big issue for me, waking up every night at 2, 3 in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep, that was the first sign that I could sleep through the night, that I
Oh,
actually
great.
was back to sleeping 6, 7 hours a night. Oh, there she goes. She's
That's
back.
her lovely dog in the
Yes.
background. So
She can hear hubby coming. Yeah.
just let
She's
it
quite loud.
allow you to feel
We'll,
like we're
no,
right there with
I
you.
can't control her. That's about mindfulness. You can't control this. As soon as hubby opens the door, she'll be fine.
Oh,
But for me, that was beginning to sleep. And of course, sleep is also, when we sleep, we feel healthier because a lot of good things happen in our sleep.
yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of, physical repair, she's loud, occurs
Yeah,
when we are actually in meditating. And oh,
your chance to use your mindful practice. And here comes hubby to take her away. Oops, your audio has gone, so I don't hear.
now I put my audio back on, so
Oh,
there they are. They're all settled and happy in this family now.
oh.
We're back to normal.
Okay, beautiful.
But I think what happens there with the mindfulness is that, you know you can sleep. And then what happened was that I was able to let go of lots of thoughts. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not that your mind is empty, but I didn't have to go with every thought. I was able to
So kind
step
of that obsessive
back from those.
feeling where you start to worry or overanalyze. You're saying those kind of started to disappear, or
Yes.
you found yourself that you weren't going to that kind of obsessive or monkey mind place so much anymore.
Yes, that's
That's
correct. So I think that's what happens, is that the monkey mind is quieter. The flow-on effect on your ability to not be as stressed and anxious in situations, that cognitive distortion,
mm,
winds down. You start to sleep better. And of course, part of mindfulness meditations also involve gratitude practices and loving kindness meditations, which obviously have Buddhist roots. So you're building self-compassion alongside the awareness. And so you start to put yourself first, you start to value yourself in a different way. And I can actually say that was the hardest part of my personal journey.
well, I love, so I read one of your blogs, and it was about self-love, and you talk about not it's like indulging on chocolate or having that third glass of wine, but on being that loving parent to yourself,
Yeah.
making those choices that really long term are going to bless your
Mm.
life. So I
Yes.
love that, and it sounds like what you just said, that where you got that cognitive perspective. Is that how you worded it?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so that kind of sense of you weren't letting the fears and anxieties rule your life, but you were
No.
moving forward. To me, it's a feeling of connecting with your knowing, your wisdom within.
Exactly.
Where
Exactly. Yeah.
you're now making that short-term decision to just have that latte or extra cookie,
Yeah.
or that beautiful dress is going to be short-term. So that,
Yes.
yeah, I love that. Well, would you like to share maybe a client that you worked with and their experiences, the beautiful transformations that happened?
Yes, I'd love to do that. So, when I was living in Sydney, I had a very beautiful client, and she had been through a lot of physical change, gynecological changes,
Okay.
that were creating her a lot of problems in her life on many different levels. And she had been diagnosed with a very severe form of endometriosis,
Mm,
which had meant that she wasn't able to have any children. And then obviously she was becoming menopausal. And I think there's a big grieving at that point. There's
yeah.
a lot of grief when that part of your life is now no longer even a mild possibility, that really was a door that was closed for her.
Mm,
And when she came to me, she was still in quite a lot of physical pain, but she was also in deep emotional pain. So we worked together over several months, and I taught her practices to start to come into a different relationship with her body.
mm-hmm.
And that was one of the primary things we worked a lot with, was using mindfulness practices to actually bring love and kindness and connection to a body that she maybe didn't have that great relationship with, quite frankly. I mean,
Well,
this was a
well,
body she didn't
I loved
like.
what you said in your blog. So I read another one about connecting with your body,
Mm.
and and I know that that experience happened to me, where when I first started yoga, the teacher would come and correct my position, and she said, "Well, can you feel that?" And I would say, "No." Because I was so used to ignoring my body, moving past the uncomfortableness, so that it just kind of felt normal, and I
Mm.
couldn't really hear those signals. So when you say to have that relationship, it sounds like communication, being able to hear what your body is saying, like, okay, we're full now. We actually really are hungry. We're thirsty. Back off and rest, or whatever it might be. So, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, and also being able to, where there was pain in her body, to actually paradoxically move towards that pain rather than to move away from it. Obviously, when we don't feel very good about ourselves, we push away
Mm-hmm.
physical and emotional pain. That's our natural reaction to create distance from that which doesn't feel good for us.
Uh-huh.
In mindfulness practices, and particularly in these kinds of mindfulness practices, I invite people to come closer, to actually see that some of their physical pain is obviously not as solid as we believe it to be.
Yeah.
It isn't a fixed and hard or consistent state, but it is in fact something that flows and that it can be softened. And so we use practices that are meditation based
Uh-huh.
to come into, to actually feel your body, and where it feels not that great, where there's discomfort or pain, you move towards it using your breath and see that what we can soften.
I love that. And I use kind of a similar thing in my own practice, maybe different terminology, but to me, whether it's physical discomfort or mental discomfort, to meet it with love, to meet it with softness. And
Yes.
like you say, from there already you've brought in more flow, more energy, and things are going to lighten. And then also you can get the information. Like, oh, okay, maybe the bone sticking out of my leg is something I should take care of.
Yes. And as I did work with this lovely lady, she picked a number of practices. Obviously, we work through a number of different types of practices. So the
Okay.
person goes from awareness to feeling compassion for themselves, and feeling also a sense of connection, because when we don't feel very well, and many midlife women do this, they isolate themselves from
Oh,
others. It's like
okay.
it's quite a common thing to pull away and say, I don't have the energy, I don't feel very well, or I may not feel myself, so I pull away from other people, which of course is the opposite to what we as human beings need.
Yeah.
And through this process, what happened was that this lady then was able to feel less pain. She took on board a couple of practices that she did every day, which was, I think, amazing. She'd go out to the park, of course the weather's very good there, and she would practice these body and breath meditations that only like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and she would do that every day.
Oh, I love that. It sounds like, each client is different and what's going to speak to them and work for them, so that it sounds like it was very much an empowering process where she picked what was going to work for her, so that
She
she
did,
was
yeah.
doing it daily.
Mm.
Um, and
And
so,
that's
what
the
were some
aim.
of so you said she was more comfortable. What were some of the other changes that unfolded?
She started to I think reconnect her life. She picked up her relationship with her sister, and that was very important to her, because her sister had a child that she was very fond of. This little boy, it was her
Mm.
nephew, and their relationship had been quite fraught. And I think in some ways she felt that now they could have a better relationship. They were more connected. There wasn't so much centering of their relationship around her illness and her issues, and her sadness around not having a child. And so she was able in many ways to be, a sort of mum, extra mum, a second mum to this little boy.
Oh,
And that was incredibly emotionally supportive for her, and to have more connection with her family in general.
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So we get to the next portion, which is my favorite part of the show, where we give you an experience to open up the door to more joy in your life. So, Clarissa, why don't you explain a little bit about what you're going to lead us into in the meditation, and just a little caveat. That she's going to be guiding us into a meditation. So make sure that you're not operating heavy equipment, or if you're listening to this in your car, turn it off and wait till you get home, and be able to really relax into it. So yeah, share a little bit about what you're going to guide us into, and yeah, whatever you'd like to share about it.
So we're going to go through a very straightforward mindfulness meditation. It has a focus on using the breath as an anchor, so that our mind starts to jump around, do its chimp chatter, we can keep coming back to the breath. But I'm also going to interject the meditation with poetry that often just gives us a little bit of an anchor, and anchors some of the discursive patterns of the mind. And the poetry just really helps us to understand what mindfulness is about and how we can use it. So I've chosen, there are 5 poems in there, and every so
I'm
often you'll hear
excited.
me read poetry from very well-known poets, ranging from, the Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi, through to modern poets such as Mary Oliver and Wendell Berry. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love
yeah.
Oliver. Beautiful. How long is the meditation going to go? Just so people can kind of have an idea of what length to expect.
We'll go for between 15 and 20 minutes. So that
Oh,
I will
I'm
be
so
a little bit.
excited.
There'll be a
So,
little bit. We'll
yeah, make
pause.
sure you turn off your cell phones and any other distraction. And I love you kind of cover that in one of your blogs at your website, that you really changed your life just by turning off notifications and things like that. So give yourself this gift and this beautiful time to really receive and allow in this experience that she's offering up for us.
Exactly.
So take it away. I'm gonna just to kind of keep us on track, make sure we stay underneath our 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
all right.
I'm going to
All
ring.
yours.
Yeah. So this meditation brings together mindfulness meditation and poetry to bring us back to the present moment. And as I said, I find poetry can help us break through the mind's discursive thinking, open our minds to the here and now, which is the core of the practice and attitude of mindfulness. The lines of a well-crafted poem can drop us out of our conceptual mind. So begin the meditation by finding a comfortable and relaxing posture. And just sit in whatever position works for you. And allow yourself to be present in a way that is relaxed but alert. So I'm going to ring my little bell now. There. And now begin by relaxing your shoulders. Relax your neck, your jaw, and just feel, if you're sitting on a chair, that your feet are on the floor and that you're supported by the surface that you're sitting on. If you happen to be lying down, just give up your weight to gravity on the surface that you're lying on. Take a few deep breaths. Take a long, slow, full in-breath. And a long, slow out-breath. And as you do so, invite a smile to your face. Bring a kind and receptive attitude to whatever is present for you. And invite a sense of calm as you breathe in and breathe out. And now just allow your breath to settle into a natural rhythm. There's no need to change it or control it. Just breathing in and out. And the first poem, Clearing by Martha Postlethwaite, speaks to the spirit of the practice of meditation. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing comes into your open, cupped hands. As you greet it, only then will you know how to give yourself to this world, so worthy of rescue. So you might envision in this time the space that you're creating, that you're setting aside for meditation, that you are creating a clearing in the midst of the busyness and responsibilities of life, in the dense forest of your life. And in that clearing, you can bring clarity and insight that comes with stillness. As you sit, bring an attitude of receptance and curiosity to whatever you're experiencing. If there are strong bodily sensations, open to those feelings and meet them with kindness. If any emotion comes up, joy, sadness, anger, meet it too with kindness. If there is a lot of thinking going on, just notice that the mind is active and anchor yourself back to the breath, back to this moment. This poem by the Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi is called The Guest House and captures well the spirit and attitude towards meditation and to what our experience of being human really is. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a new depression. Some momentary awareness comes with each visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows that sweep your house empty of all its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. One of the first things we begin to notice when we start meditating is how our mind can have a mind of its own. Our intention to be in the present, to be aware of our direct experience, maybe not what our mind wants. Our mind may be moving, thinking about what we're going to have for dinner, about the difficult conversation we had earlier with a colleague or a family member. Or maybe it's scenes from a movie we watched recently, or just a myriad of other exciting, enticing thoughts. It can be really helpful to have a specific focus for our meditation. And one of the most commonly used and accessible focuses on our own breath. If you bring awareness to the sensations of breathing, just breathing in and breathing out, without controlling or changing your breath, just meet it just as it is, the in-breath and the out-breath. When you notice that your attention has moved away, just bring it back to the breath. And it's important to remember that thinking is, well, not a problem in mindfulness meditation, just something to be aware of. Every time you wake up out of thinking, you're training your mind to be present, to be fully in the present moment. In this poem, Peace by Dorothy Hunt points to the truth that peace is always found in the present moment. Do you think that peace requires an end to war or tigers eating only vegetables? Does peace require an absence from yourself? Do you think peace will come from another place than here? Another time? Now is where your heart is, where your peace is this moment, without thinking that it should be some other way, but that you should feel something other than the things that are unfolding. Remember, life is unfolding according, maybe not to your plans. Peace is this moment in your heart space, when everything that is welcome. As you sit here, if your mind is drawn to an emotion, a sorrow, a loss, or anger about a recent encounter, maybe a strong judgment about something that you've done or failed to do, you can let your attention move into the breath, to the emotional mind state, and open to the feelings that are there. With kindness and acceptance, allow yourself to experience whatever bodily feelings are present. If you feel tightness or tension, let those feelings come and go. Allow yourself to experience and accept those feelings. If negative thoughts come, bring awareness to them and let them go. With kindness and without resistance. Be interested in your experience. Notice all sensations, emotions, feelings, thoughts. And let them come and go in their own time with kindness and acceptance. So sit with a receptive attitude, bringing kindness and interest to whatever is present. letting your breath be your home base, returning you whenever the mind moves into thoughts. Just coming back to the beginning again and again. This poem, The Journey by Mary Oliver, speaks to the voice within rather than allowing ourselves to be continually swept up in our business and busy world. One day you finally knew that you have to do and began, but the voices around kept shouting their bad advice till the whole house trembled and felt like it was going to tumble. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried at the very foundations and their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the cloud, and there was a new voice that you slowly recognized as your own, and kept you company as you went deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing that you know you can do, to save the only life that you can save. So sitting with an ease, fully at peace here in this moment, allowing yourself to feel what you're experiencing, letting everything come and go, sensations like energy moving through us, using the breath as a home base, breathing in and breathing out. And when your mind wants to move into thinking, being a problem solver, just notice it in a kind and friendly way. And bring your attention back to the breath. Let's sit quietly here for a few moments. And I'll finish with a poem by Wendell Berry, The Peace of Wild Things, which reminds us how nature can bring us back to ourselves, back to the present moment. Humans have a unique ability to move into the future and then move into the past, to worry, ruminate, but we also have the capacity to come back home to ourselves, back to this moment, and to find peace in this moment, whatever else is happening around us. When despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound, unclear of my life and my children's life, I go and lie down where the wood rake lies, by the beauty of the water, where the great heron feeds. Wild things who do not tax their lives with thoughts of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for the night, and I rest in the great world. So just sit for a moment as we close this meditation, allowing the breath to come and go. And when you feel ready, you can gently begin to come back into the room, to the sounds around you, feeling your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Wow.
Just playing about with my spells here.
Oh my goodness, I had no clue what to expect from, I thought, poetry and meditation. How's that gonna work? That was just very powerful for me. I love storytelling, and here you bring these amazing authors, their words to life. That was powerful. I felt that flow of energy. I loved how you kept directing us back to our breath, because there's a few times my mind was wandering, like, well, is it okay to use modern day poets? Is there any uh, just different thoughts started to come. And it's like, no, we're just gonna go back and direct to the breath. Yeah, it felt, with the poetry, it felt really cozy, a kind of sacred, a sacred, cozy, comfortable feeling. Thank you. Wow. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. And I loved, so I did feel different twinges here and there. And I did what you said, to just meet it with kindness. And I could feel it just kind of dissipated. Different things kind of came back. And then I just kept giving it that kindness. I felt like in my throat area, this kind of buzzing. It didn't it didn't really feel uncomfortable, but it felt like movement and flow. And so to kind of speak to the audience, what are maybe some of the things that they might have experienced, and maybe you can say, oh, that's normal, or so that because I'm sure experience maybe were similar or very different.
I think we can all be very different. Sometimes, obviously, we're different on different days too. You can do the same meditation tomorrow, and you may have a very different experience because maybe you've had a different kind of day. But people tend to find that the mind wants to be somewhere else. The mind starts going, hello, what are you having for dinner? As I said, when I'm sort of going, it wants to, because it starts to get bored and think, oh, this is boring, and it's looking for something new, because that's what brains do. It's constantly looking for stimuli. So it's like jumping around, and that it can allow you to be carried off down a rabbit hole. And then you realize you've woken up towards the end of the meditation. Oh, I'm here. You might go to sleep. You might go to sleep. That's not unusual as well. That sometimes, if we're very tired, and particularly if we do much more physical related meditations like a body scan, people go to sleep because they're relaxing their body. And that's okay too.
Yeah, I found in my practice where some people stay very conscious during the hypnosis meditative process, and others go to sleep, but they still have those transformations. That part that we're talking to, what I kind of think of as the higher self, that conscious mind, subconscious, that the subconscious is always awake, listening. So that people, it's like they'll say, well, I didn't think it was working, and I would just fall asleep to it. But then I started to have these changes that you talked about in the meditation. Well, what a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
So really, whatever people's experience is going to be perfect and right for them. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. The aim in mindfulness meditation is to pay attention. I mean, that is the long-term goal. And that's why, normally my meditations are quite, we start quite short. People get used to being okay at 5 minutes, 10, and then we work towards 25, 30 minutes. I mean, today I did because it's poetry and we're on but normally there is an intention that we should be more and more consciously aware, so that we're working with the mind and not allowing it to wriggle about and do what it wants. We're gaining some sense of control, because even if it's very small, we're then more able to make choice. and have perspective, whereas otherwise we run on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do in mindfulness meditation is to have more awareness of the
Yeah, to
present
make
moment.
mindful choices, to live mindfully.
Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. So maybe to let the audience know too, if you're listening to it, would it be okay if they only did 5 minutes at first, and they
Absolutely.
kind of built it up over time to get to that beautiful place. Well, I want people to, we need to wrap this up pretty quickly, but
We
I want
do.
people to be able to experience you deeper. So I know you do retreats, you work with people one-on-one, and I believe it's not just in person, so that even though you live in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
that you're available to all of us that have internet
I
or
am.
a working phone. So why don't you share a little bit about how what you're doing that people can connect with, whether it's your podcast, your website, so that they can, learn more about you and work with you if they desire.
That's beautiful. So I have a website, which is actually my name. It's my new website. It's ClarissaKristjansson.com. And there's obviously my midlife programs are there. So you can either join a midlife community coaching program where we're many together helping each other, or you can coach one-on-one with me, which is more private and deeply.
I think
Um,
before we go further too, go ahead and because your name is a little unusual, and we're going to have it
yes.
in the notes, but if you're not looking at the notes, can you actually spell out that name? Because I don't think I would probably, if I heard it, spell it a little different, and I want people to be
Yes.
able to find you.
Thank you. So it's Clarissa, Clarissa, Christianson, Kristjanson.com. So Clarissa Christianson, all one word, .com.
Okay,
And,
beautiful. And I know
and
everybody doesn't always have access to the notes, so it's
yeah.
just nice. They can rewind it and
If you
okay,
see
I
my name
got
here
it.
on the video, it's ClarissaChristjansson.com. That's lovely.
Okay.
And there you can find out my various coaching programs. And as Sharon, as you've mentioned, I do have a podcast called A Little Breathing Space with
Which
lovely
I
people like
love
Sharon.
and highly recommend. I've enjoyed several different episodes.
And we talk a lot about health, mental health and well-being, as well as talking to people about their own menopause journey. If you're in that group, I think there's some pretty hard-hitting things coming about things
Yeah,
that we don't talk about sometimes, that we pretend are all okay, and we're starting to talk much more openly about. And then also I am running
go
some
ahead
retreats.
and name a couple of the episodes, the topics
Yes.
that you.
Some of the top episodes I've had on there has been when I did an episode on burnout and how that triggered a menopause journey for a young woman. She's a business coach living in the UK. I've just released a very tough episode of somebody who became menopausal at 24, and
Oh,
her journey through the medical system is a pretty tough journey, actually. I was very touched. I've had some amazing authors. You can listen to one or two on. I did one on EFT with somebody who's very well known in that space, and that's a great episode about EFT because he's got a lovely laugh. So I've had some very diverse different people talking about all sorts of things around health, well-being, and healing. That just listen to them and enjoy them. Yeah.
nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That was just so lovely, that meditation. And I'm sure that there's going to be people out there that would maybe like to follow through and give you compliments. So to know that there is a Facebook page that you can go to, the Joy Experience podcast. So for just type in the Joy Experience, and it'll take you to that Facebook page, and we'll have the episodes posted there, and you can give your lovely comments about how that meditation was life-changing. Or now how do I get to your website again? So the information will be there too.
Indeed.
So that wraps up our Joy Experience for today. Once again, sponsored by Svensson Hypnosis. If you want to learn more about my business, go to svenssonhypnosis.com, and you can receive 2 free meditations. Let Go and Make Space for Your Dreams, with a follow-up meditation of Go Deep with Sleep. Like Clarissa was sharing, there's just no better gift than getting a good night's sleep. It's just life-changing. So, all right. Thank you so much again, and see you at our next Joy episode. All right. Bye.
Thank you.